What's up, everybody? It's Clark here for the BOS Sports Blogcast, reeling after what was a tough afternoon watching the Atlanta Braves get walked off by the Pittsburgh Pirates there at PNC Park. After tying the game in the top of the eighth inning with a Sean Murphy 3 RBI bases clearing double on what was a gutsy move by Brian Snitker to pinch hit for Drake Baldwin after left-handed Joey Bartz was announced, Sean Murphy delivers with the only Braves runs of the afternoon. Brilliant call there for Brian Snitker. Unfortunately, in the bottom of the ninth inning, Raisel Iglesias gave up 2 hits along with a line out to put the runners at both second and third base, along with an intentional walk, Andrew McCutcheon, which preceded the Joey Bart RBI game-winning single, giving the Pirates the 4-3 victory. The Braves have not won a single series in May so far. They're now 5-5 in their last 10 games, 7-5 on the road this season, and have failed in the third straight attempt to get to 500 this season. The state of Atlanta sports is in a state such that we're looking towards stars on teams in other cities that have come from Atlanta. And there's certainly one, Jaylen Brown from the Marietta area, who had an exciting game yesterday with the Boston Celtics, who picked up a game versus the New York Knicks in the second round of NBA playoffs. In this blogcast episode, we're going to take a look at that Celtics versus Knicks matchup, especially last game, where the Knicks won 115-93, 22-point margin, the largest so far in that series. And as well, later in this blogcast, we're going to look at the Atlanta Braves hitting struggles as well as their pitching matchups for the upcoming series, and going to replay the 22nd Braves Cardinals game segment that I have there back in my back pocket. So here is, this is the BOS Sports Blogcast. Aforementioned some positive news over the weekends with Celtics and Jaylen Brown from the Marietta area blowing out the New York Knicks in 115-93, picking up a game in the series, still trailing 2-1 with Monday night's game 4 there in Madison Square Garden. Knicks versus Celtics. The Celtics, they still face an upward odds, as only 34 of 429 teams in NBA history, 7.3%, have come back from going down 0-2 in a series and coming back to win the series. That is becoming a little bit more of a trend recently, as 34 of those winners, 10 of them have come in the last 9 years, as well as 7 in just last 4. Including the 2024 Pacers, the 2023 Warriors, the 2022 Mavericks, and in 2021, both the Bucks and Clippers did it twice, coming back from down 0-2. So potentially a trend. And will the Celtics continue that in 2025? On the offense end, both Peyton Pritchard and Al Horford were major difference for the Celtics in their victory yesterday compared to their losses in the series, shooting 14 for 25 from the field and 8 for 14 from beyond the arc, as the Celtics flip the script on their three-point shooting and get the W, all while Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown potentially not having their best games of the series so far. Jaylen Brown, he's still shooting under 40% from the field and did as well in this game. Tatum and Brown in this game were combined 15 for 38 from the field, while having a nice 7 for 15 clip from beyond the arc. As Jason Tatum, he had a great day from beyond the arc, shooting 5 for 9. And Jaylen Brown, he had 2 timely 3-point shots there in the first and second quarter, as the Celtics built a large lead early. That's something that they did not quite do in the first 2 games while they had large leads. To get early on the game, the Knicks-Celtics scores were fairly close. and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They were both instrumental to the Celtics' victory yesterday on defense. While they have not yet potentially played their best games on offense, they've certainly been a huge factor on defense, as characterized by their 3 steals combined for Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, yesterday's Knicks-Celtics game, while the entire Knicks team only had 3, as the Celtics won that turnover margin as well. Kristaps Porzingis, he played 5 more minutes yesterday after, of course, being out for Game 2 with illness. And he's certainly instrumental to the Celtics' victory yesterday, up to 18 minutes, 53 seconds played. Of course, Wednesday night's game, he played 13 minutes, 53 seconds, up 5 minutes. And there's an interesting lineup. Joe Mazzulla, he subbed in Luke Kornet with 50 seconds to go, for about 50 seconds between the 2 and 3 minute mark, to foul Mitchell Robinson. And after that, after he got his fouls in on Mitchell Robinson, and even assisted bucket from Kristaps Porzingis, we saw Joe Mazzulla opt out there for a large front court lineup with Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis to end that third quarter. And that felt instrumental to the Celtics keeping their lead in this game, while the Knicks still led on the offensive glass, beating them with 17 offensive boards compared to the Celtics 12. Still a factor keeping that combination lineup of Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson off the offensive glass there for the Knicks. It felt like at times there when the Knicks heat up and came back in Game 1, Game 2, they got a lot of second chance opportunities. Celtics, they tried to shut that down with Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis there in the third quarter or early in the fourth. And of course, Kristaps Porzingis coming back from the illness and playing those extra minutes. Huge for the Celtics yesterday. Kristaps Porzingis was finally subbed out midway into the fourth quarter after picking up his 5th foul after Karl Anthony Towns ran into him. Knicks, they again led in second chance opportunities, but this time didn't get quite into the rhythm they did. So in this podcast, look at 3 different key stats, whether or not team wins a basketball game. That's, of course, field goal percentage, rebounding, and turnover margin. This game, although the Celtics, they did lose the rebounding margin slightly, of course, losing that aforementioned offensive rebounding stat, 17-12. They handily outshot the Knicks, and as well from the turnover margin as well, winning 8-11. Also notable to mention, the Knicks struggled from the free throw line. Of course, the Celtics strategy of fouling Mitchell Robinson, I'm not sure if they used to call it Hack a Robinson now. I'm not sure about that. But Mitchell Robinson, he was 4 for 12 from the line, all while Josh Hart, Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, starters for the Knicks, they shot 20 for 22 from the free throw line. And Precious Achiuwa, who also got a free throw shot after and one opportunity and missed it towards the end of the first quarter. For the Knicks, they have huge problem going forward looking at this game, and that's winning their one-on-one matchups with their stars, Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, versus Celtics stalwart defenders. We saw Jason Tatum very successful guarding Karl Anthony Towns, as well as Al Horford. And then on Jalen Brunson, you see Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, all having lots of success guarding Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson was able to draw 3 fouls on Peyton Pritchard and take advantage a bit of that matchup. But as far as winning one-on-one matchups overall, seems like a problem going forward for the Celtics. Of course, we can see them flip that script. The Celtics, of course, they have 5 defenders in their starting lineup. They could arguably guard either Karl Anthony Towns or Jalen Brunson. A little bit a stretch, Al Horford guarding Brunson, but we did see him, Jalen Brunson, he missed a 3-point shot, and I can't remember which quarter that was. He got a one-on-one matchup versus Al Horford and settled for a pull-up 3 shot instead of attacking him one-on-one. Might be a little bit of strategy, but Al Horford, he was certainly all over the place. He played the most minutes he has so far in the series with a little bit over 36. I believe he played around 34 in game 1 and around 29 last game. So uptick in minutes, uptick in out activity. There was social media, Celtics social media account that said Al Horford wasn't going to let them lose a series, and that's certainly true for this game, as he was everywhere and active on defense. Jaylen Brunson wanted no part of Al Horford on that possession, of course, going for that step back 3-point shot. And so for the Knicks and their one-on-one matchups, they want to look at feasting on, of course, the bench players. And they were able to do that a bit, aforementioned, versus Peyton Pritchard. Jaylen Brunson was able to draw those 3 personal fouls on Pritchard. They're at the 4-minute, 30-second mark. Peyton Pritchard foul on Jaylen Brunson. As well at the 3-minute, 16-second mark. And 5-minute, 22-second mark of the second quarter. Oh, the 3-minute, 16-second mark, Peyton Pritchard got foul on Jaylen Brunson. The 4-minute, 30-second mark of the first quarter, Peyton Pritchard had nice defense on Jaylen Brunson and did not foul. Jaylen Brunson did miss the shot, mid-range jumper. There a little bit of traffic in the lane. I believe that was Kristaps Porzingis in the lane. He did not step up all the way, contest that shot. But nice defense by Peyton Pritchard, even though Jaylen Brunson got a bit around him. He avoided that situation, such as when Derek White fouled him in the third quarter, running into him from behind there. So Jaylen Brunson, with a savvy play, of course, he got those 3 personal fouls and 5-minute, 22-second mark. And Jaylen Brunson got an and one there in the second quarter on Peyton Pritchard. Karl Anthony Towns in this game, he was very aggressive. Saturday afternoon, getting the free throw line for 11 attempts, making 10 of them. Only shot 5 for 18 from the field. As several of his on-ball defenders, including we saw Jason Tatum switch on Karl Anthony Towns a couple times there in the post and have a lot of success against him. Well, Al Horford, very successful against Karl Anthony Towns. So got an upward battle for the Knicks to figure out in their X's and O's how they're going to get their stars going. And I feel like that was a little bit more of a story than their bench and role players going 1 for 12 from beyond the 3-point line. As the Celtics' ability to stay stalwart on their on-ball defensive sequences, switching the man on the pick and roll as well, and being able to stay stalwart in all-ball situations, not much help defense. I felt like this as well, highly characterized by Josh Hart's 3-point attempt at the 5-minute, 27-second mark of the third quarter. After Jaylen Brunson got free from Jaylen Brown there on a cutting play. On the baseline, he received the pass from Mikal Bridges. Al Horford did not feel the need to completely collapse in the paint, as Jaylen Brunson, he was under 10 feet from the basket there along the baseline. But Jaylen Brown, he recovered nicely, and Al Horford, he started to leak back out in 3-point arc there where Josh Hart was above the top of the key. And Jaylen Brown, he stayed steady and stalwart on Jaylen Brunson. Brunson made the pass for the open shot, but not so open, as Al Horford was already on his way out there, and he made a fairly decent contest there on Josh Hart. The Knicks maybe had their best player just under 10 feet from the basket, and because of Jaylen Brown's brilliant on-ball defense, they're recovering after being cut by a screen. No chance of Brunson scoring in the paint. Al Horford does not have to come collapse in a potential post-up situation of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And Celtics able to recover, give a decent contest on that 3-point attempt. And there's a lot of plays just like that, which contributed to the Knicks 1 for 12 shooting for the role players there from beyond the arc. So Celtics Knicks game 4 Monday night. Can the Celtics win game 2 on the road and avoid the 3-1 deficit? Of course, that would be the preferable scenario for them. So moving on to Atlanta Braves. The Braves, when I last joined you May 1st, the Braves were 7-3 and on a consecutive series winning streak. Since then, they've lost convincingly to the Dodgers in series, the best team in baseball, as well as split a 4-game series with the Reds and just lost to the Pittsburgh Pirates with a walk-off victory for the opponents on Mother's Day. And the Braves, over the last 7 games, hitting-wise, numbers are pretty much abysmal. Matt Olson, he's had a couple home runs the last week, including yesterday's game, which was a big part of why the Braves won there in Pittsburgh, being their only victory there in Pittsburgh for 2025. 6 for 26 is Matt Olson in his last 26 ABs, his last 7 games. Not stellar numbers, .231 average, a .300 on-base percentage, which is slightly below league average. Slugging percentage, a nice clip at .500. Of course, with those 2 home runs. Does have a double as well in the last 7 games. Good for an .800 OPS. 5 RBIs. Drake Baldwin, the rookie catching sensation for Atlanta Braves, is absolutely on fire right now with 6 hits in his last 11 bats. He's gotten into 6 games and pitch hit situations. Braves have used them in extra innings as well. Drake Baldwin is really heating up with these numbers. It's rumored that he'll get more playing time, as noted by interview questions by the beat writers and whatnot there with Brian Snicker. And if he continues this trajectory and gets a significant amount more playing time, he could be in the Rookie of the Year conversation. Of course, in the last 7 games, a .545 average, .545 on-base percentage, .909 slugging percentage, 1.454 OPS. Those numbers, I believe, are all much higher than Aaron Judge's. Leading candidate right now for, of course, MVP in American League with stalwart and a much larger sample size, of course, as well. So moving on to, unfortunately, this is where the fun ends as far as Braves batting numbers over the last 7 games goes. As Ozzie Albies, he's really been struggling, and that trend has continued. Last 15 games. His last 7 games, he's had 2 hits and 28 at-bats. Including his last 22 at-bats, he's 0 for 22. No way to sugarcoat it. Absolutely hurts as a fan, but Ozzie Albies is in a huge slump right now. Unlike other times in his career when he was in a slump, while he stayed healthy unlike other times in his career when he was in a slump, he stayed healthy. His at-bats seemed to get better, but now he has great at-bat, seemed to make on contact, but not getting much results in that contact. Getting a lot of weak contact, a lot of pop flies. Room to be concerned with Ozzie Albies at this point. Nick Allen, in the last week, he stayed pretty solid in a slumping lineup with 5 hits in the last 19 at-bats. Orlando Arcia, he's seen some game action here for the Braves as they played some extra inning games. And good for 1 at-bat as well. Stuart Fairchild as well, with all the extra inning games. They played 4 and since last time we've seen each other. And Stuart Fairchild as well got in on a Alex Verdugo rest day and got 3 at-bats. And that time he saw no hits. So still struggling there at the plate for Stuart Fairchild. Of course, he's very fast, and a big reason why the Braves successful the other day in extra innings. So Michael Harris, in his last 7 games, he's been pretty solid with 7 hits and 27 at-bats. Good for a .259 average, .300 on-base percentage, a little bit below average, but he did have 2 walks this week. Maybe being a little bit more selective there in his pitches. A decent series versus the Reds as well, with 5 hits and 19 at-bats. An RBI double yesterday, which was key in the Braves' 3-2 victory, of course, only having 3 runs. Sean Murphy, who was nearly the hero of today's game with the 3 RBI double, bases clearing double in the top of the 8th inning, tie the game, and to break all of our hearts in the 9th inning, unfortunately. He had the game-tying RBI double, and that accounts for all of his RBIs this week. Sean Murphy's been slumping a little bit at the plate outside of this double, and the numbers over his last 7 games do not quite tell a whole picture, of course, with that game-altering double today. Be interesting to see how the Braves use Sean Murphy and Drake Baldwin this week. Or I believe Jake Irvin, right-hander, with monstrous 12-6 break curveball. Makes a lot of sense to start Drake Baldwin. We'll see how the lineup shakes out for tomorrow, and if they play. It's supposed to be rainy tomorrow, so looking doubtful. Marcell Ozuna, he's unfortunately in a slump as well. 160 average with 4 hits in his last 25 at-bats. 200 slugging percent, which is not good for DH, of course. 300 on-base percentage with 5 walks in the last 7 games. Marcell Ozuna is still being fairly selective in his pitches, but as we saw today, he's making quite a bit of hard contact. A little bit of tough luck for Marcell Ozuna today. We'll see if maybe that's a trend that he's starting to turn things around. We'll certainly need that versus Jake Irvin, as he won 3 of the 4 games versus the Braves last season. So Austin Riley today, his last 7 games, he's 4 for 29. 7 for 29 with 4 runs, that is. He has 1 double and 1 home run as well. 2 RBIs. As one of our top lineup hitters, often hitting cleanup, we'd certainly like to see much higher numbers. As well, 5 strikeouts, as he led the league the last I checked in strikeouts. I believe continues to do so. Eddie Rosario, interesting situation. He was signed last week and released just a few days later. He had 2 at-bats, did not get a hit. He got a strikeout, and is noted by beat writers such as David O'Brien that he signed for a prorated contract. And Eddie Rosario, he played in 2 out of 162 games to appear for 2 at-bats, which means the Braves likely paid him $9,629 in prorated salary. That's about how much that, not factoring taxes, that is 2 divided by 162 is the prorated amount. So a very interesting situation. Rosario, he posted a potentially heavy dissent with a clown emoji Instagram story on social media. Potential that the Braves costed him more money to come for those 2 at-bats, those 2 games, than he was being paid. Spencer Strider, he was replaced with Luke Williams, which was a fairly interesting situation. Have to wonder if something outside of baseball caused that situation, as Luke Williams, it does not quite make sense, and he's played 2 games so far, good for 1 at bat. Of course, Pincic, extra inning situation the other day. Corresponding move there, Eddie Rosario, does not quite make sense, as Luke Williams just sitting there on the bench. Would have made more sense to potentially no, it would not make sense. The Braves already have 13 pitchers, so when they bring back Spencer Strider, it does not make any kind of sense for them to drop Eddie Rosario. So you have to wonder if there's something that happened outside of the baseball field to make them want to DFA Eddie Rosario and sever that tie. Aforementioned, the Braves are carrying 13 pitchers. Spencer Strider, he's nearing a return for the Braves. Mark Bowman has updated that he's feeling good and throwing 2 bullpens. Reportedly, feels good and ready to play, pending a Braves situation. And the idea, of course, has been bounced back and forth between fans, beat writers, broadcasters alike. The idea of the Braves starting pitchers needing extra rest. And of course, Chris Sale, he pitched 9 pitches today, so that might not be as much a concern for the Braves as it is for us from the outside looking in. As the Braves, they're playing a stretch of I'm going to take a pause here. This is the BOS Sports Podcast. So aforementioned, the Braves fans, media, broadcasters alike have been bouncing around this idea that the Braves rotation might need potential extra rest. Of course, as noted, Chris Sale, he got extra rest last spring, but of course pitching 99 pitches today, potentially not as much of a concern for the Braves as us outward looking in. But with the Braves playing 17 consecutive games here, which started May 1st and ending May 19th after series in Boston. We haven't heard this officially from the team. And bringing up Spencer Strider, who's reportedly on the edge of coming back. Bryce Elder, presumably, will be the corresponding move, although he's been fairly solid his last 2 starts. The potential for rain and rain delay essentially creates opportunity for the Braves to create a little bit of rest for their starters, as they do have the extra man there for doubleheader situations. Braves could keep Bryce Elder in a doubleheader situation, DFA him, and corresponding move to bring up Spencer Strider. That situation, you'd give the rotation extra day of rest there. So that would be a nice potential thing to do if the Braves are concerned about that. The other option would be, of course, optioning Bryce Elder and going with that very stalwart rotation. AJ Smith-Shawver, he's been pitching brilliantly lately. So the Braves could absolutely have a potential to go on a run. We'd be more encouraged by that potential, of course. The offense was showing more signs of life right now. So the Braves, they do not have options in their bullpen, palatable ones that is. Daysbel Hernandez and Dylan Lee, I believe, both have 2 options, and they're, of course, key relievers for Atlanta Braves. Do not want to option them. And as well, not all outside of Raisel Iglesias, most of the bullpen is pitching fairly solid. Rafael Montero's had some struggles, but further down in the depth chart, and you see Scott Blewett picking it up, has pitched fairly stalwart as well. Aniel De Los Santos, the last 7 games, pitched 8.1 innings scoreless with 9 strikeouts. He's really coming along nicely, having strong outings. So really no one you want to DFA there in the bullpen. Raisel Iglesias, you're not going to DFA him, even with his recent struggles. Trade potential, but I can't see that coming to fruition before Spencer Strider returns to the roster, especially with the Braves' need for relievers in high leverage situations. For the Braves, just have to hope that Raisel Iglesias is able to turn things around. They did give him 2 days off, and of course he's been struggling this season. Is he a potential candidate for the IL? That's a concerning thought, concerning possibility, but I'd say have to wait and see what the explanation is for Raisel Iglesias' struggles. Hopefully it's not health related or anything like that. So looking up to this upcoming matchup, Braves Nationals this week. They, of course, had the $10 deal. I bought into that. Regarding it a little bit now, as it's very rainy. It's raining right now, in fact, in Atlanta. And next 2 days, a lot of rain. So Potential for rain delays, postponements. I don't like those kinds of things. I'm a very busy person. Anyways, tomorrow the Braves scheduled to face Jake Irvin, who's 2-1 versus the Braves in his career with an ERA of 2.77. His only loss coming in 2023 with 23 strikeouts, 5 games versus the Braves. He's lost 3 of 4 games in 2024 that Jake Irvin started. They only had 13 hits and 3 runs versus him in 2024. Jake Irvin, of course, has that monstrous curveball, and he's been using it more this year than he has in past seasons. As if it's been 20% less hittable with batters, opponents batting around 20% less on Jake Irvin's curveball this year or last year. If you're having that much success, of course you're going to throw it more. And it has 12-6 breaking curveball. And Braves fans do not want to hear that, as of course they all know this team struggles with 12-6 break. The Achilles heel of most of our hitters in the lineup. And aforementioned opponents are hitting 1.181 versus Jake Irvin curveball this year, which is down around 20% from last season, with a higher whiff and put away percentage as well. He's relying on that pitch heavily, using it more this season aforementioned, throwing his fastball less and less hard. His fastball velo is down as Jake Irvin for his season. But not a concern for Jake Irvin, as his curveball is nearly unhittable this year. So, Grant Holmes is scheduled for the Braves. The Braves signed to be towing the rubber. And he's made it through 5 innings, each of his last 5 starts for the Braves. And he nearly had a very nice start, of course, versus the Dodgers, as he struck out Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, start top of the first inning. He nearly made it 6 innings with 1 run and 9 strikeouts, but Mookie Betts, he just had to be a spoiler. He hit a solo home run there in top 6 inning, putting Grant Holmes' final line of 6 innings, 2-run ball. Still pretty nice, and would definitely play in a playoff situation versus the Dodgers if the Braves could formulate some run support for him. And he, of course, lost that game. A brilliant start there for Grant Holmes as the Braves struggled. I believe that was versus Roki Sasaki and his 12-6 break splitter for Roki Sasaki. So overall, it was a very good start for Grant Holmes versus the Dodgers. Last start, he struggled. The Braves later this week versus the Reds. Grant Holmes struggled versus the Reds. Do I have any notes on that? Nope. He struggled versus the Reds. Braves, Grant Holmes lost last week. So Grant Holmes want to have more of a start like he did versus the Dodgers than he did versus the Reds. Michael Soroka, former Braves All-Star, is slated to face the Braves in his 3rd game this season. He really struggled his first 2 games. Pitched once in May and once last week. In both those games, he gave up 5 hits, 4 runs, and 5 innings. Both the Blue Jays and the Guardians. The Blue Jays he faced in March, and Guardians last week. Michael Soroka is still struggling. Hopefully, the Braves take advantage of that this week if they do face him. There's some rain delay scenarios. Mitchell Parker scheduled for the Reds, and Bryce Elder as well on Wednesday. Trevor Williams in the game Thursday versus A.J. Smith-Shawver. So before I head out, I want to pause for a quick station identification. This is the BOS Sports Blogcast. So here we go. Braves Cardinals, April 22nd at Truist Park. Here's Scott Blewett versus Nolan Gorman. Top the first inning. Gorman, of course, had the key hit in the 8th. First pitch, foul, 84.7 mile per hour slider. Despite his potentially comical name, Scott Blewett has been solid for the Braves in his 3 appearances so far. His last 2 have been scoreless versus the Rockies and Diamondbacks, combined 2.1 innings. Here comes the 0-1 pitch. Down, coming straight back at me. Ooh, landed right below me there. Thought I had a chance. I'm pretty high up there, so. And that was 84.1 mile per hour splitter. Scott Blewett has Nolan Gorman down the count early here. This would be the only game where Scott Blewett has allowed runs so far for the Braves in his 3 appearances. Here's the 0-2 pitch. Ball. 93.8 mile per hour fastball. We now have 1 ball and 2 strikes. Blewett went 3 innings, allowed 4 hits in this game, 2 runs, 2 walks. This is the only strikeout here. 1-2 pitch. Another ball, high and tight, looked like. 94 mile per hour fastball. 2-2. The count is now even. Nolan Gorman, aforementioned, 3-run RBI single top 8, break the game open. Ugh. Tough for us Braves fans that game. 2-2 pitch. Ball. 85.4 mile per hour splitter. We now have a full count of 3-2. Cardinals would score 6 in the last 2 tops of the innings on their way to the 10-4 victory. It was not a fun game. I booed pretty loud. 3-2 pitch, swinging strike, 84.3 miles per hour. That was booing. All those runs came across the plate. I booed as loud as possible. I booed for 10 people, if that is possible. So it was a great night otherwise. Always the best 2 times of the year to go to Truist Park, or in the spring early and in October when it's cool, nice temperature for drinking beverages. It's 60s, 70s kind of temperatures there. It got a little bit rainy. I don't mind. I like a little bit of drizzle. And here we get some Braves batting average. Braves batting action. Here's Jared Kelenic at the plate versus Andre Palante. Bottom of the 2nd inning. First pitch, swinging strike. We have Orlando Arcia there on deck. And here comes 0-1 pitch. Might have been the 0-2 pitch. It looked like a ball in dirt there. 1-2 count. 87.3 mile per hour slider. Palante gave up all the runs for the Cardinals that day, as Cardinals bullpen was scoreless and Palante gave up the 4 runs. Here's the 1-2 pitch. Foul ball. 94.2 mile per hour fastball. Oh, Jared Kelenic, he was just sent down to AAA today. Tough news for Jared Kelenic. 1-2 pitch, another ball. Got an even count on a 76 mile per hour knuckle curve. Beat writer Gabe Burns was quoted as saying in an interview from Jared Kelenic that he was in high spirits and looking at it as an opportunity, so hopefully that's a positive thing. Hopefully he comes back strong. The Braves will need outfielders in the second half. They'll need position players, even with Ronald Acuna Jr. coming back. Can't wait till that happens. And so here is now the 3-2 pitch. Full count. Foul ball, high and tight, 95.4 mile per hour fastball. Tough news with Jared Kelenic being sent down to AAA. Aforementioned, hopefully he comes back strong. Andre Palante and Orlando Arcia, he's there in the batter's box. So Kelenic, he would, on a 3-2 pitch, ground out. I wanted to mention Arcia is standing quite a far ways outside of that on-deck circle. It's something I noticed all game. The Braves hitters were a little bit further out than I've seen them before. They seem to do that a little bit more situationally, but this game, they were often out there. So it was a nice game otherwise, other than the blown lead. Don't remind me. The one game I get to go to in April. And concessions ticket. I like to move around whenever I get that. A few different upper deck sections. I got to check out the outfield, get some pictures there. Don't like to get on my phone too much, but I got a little bit of pictures and video. And so here we have an Austin Riley at bat. Alex Verdugo just doubled and got on base. And Austin Riley's about to drive him in here. So we got a ball there. I believe we're on the 2-2 pitch now. And we got a ball in the dirt, which allows Alex Verdugo to get the third base. Full count. Here we go, Austin Riley up the middle. Single scoring, Verdugo raise up at that point. Getting the Braves a 3-2 lead. Would not be the last run that Andre Palante gave up on the day. Unfortunately, did not get either of the home runs. That kind of stunk. Can't take a video of the whole game. Have to sit there and enjoy it. So here, 23 Braves division titles. Can they win another one this year? The Mets, they have quite a way to catch up the Mets. Of course, the Phillies are in, but the Mets are having some drama up there with one of their players they signed the offseason. So So before we head out for a day, I want to be sure to remind Atlanta Hawks fans that tomorrow night is NBA Draft Lottery. I believe it starts around 6:30. The Hawks have just a little bit over a 96% chance to convey the Kings pick next season for 2025. Their first round draft pick is, of course, protected between selections 1 through 12. So we'll learn tomorrow night if the Hawks get that. And of course, I've already announced an upcoming BOS Sports Blogcast episode. I'll have a monstrous NBA draft segment / episode. We cover all selections and as well off-season preview for the Atlanta Braves, Atlanta Hawks, and what they should do this off-season and how they could potentially carve out a roster that can compete with teams that we see such as the Celtics, Thunder, Nuggets, and the top teams in NBA playoffs this year. So I want to be sure to thank everyone for joining tonight. Be sure to listen and watch previous episodes of the BOS Sports Blogcast. Stream Bar Soap Music on Spotify. And see you later in the week. Celtics, Knicks, Game 4 Wednesday, Game 5. Game 4 Monday, Game 5 Wednesday, and Braves Nationals Monday through Thursday.